Whenever we are helping our customers pick the right project management tool for the job that they have, very often we are getting bombarded with questions. Can the tool do this? What about that? What about this? What about that? You know, the whole specification of the process of managing their projects, how it looks like, what they need, what they have in their current tools, and what they expect from the new one, right? So it's the dance that we have to go through, and it's absolutely normal. It's actually, even if we do it right now with the customer, it's later on part of our process of gathering requirements anyway, so we are happy to do it. But in this process, very often we bump into some elements that are simply not doable, at least not without any custom solutions, with the toolset that is available inside the Atlassian ecosystem. And because BigPicture is one of the most advanced project and portfolio management tools in the Atlassian ecosystem, this is the one we work with quite often. So today I want to show you 5 things that BigPicture actually at this point in time does not cover. I'm saying at this point in time because the tool is being developed all the time. New features are coming in. So who knows, maybe in the future. And I actually am hoping for this. But for now, these things are not available in BigPicture. But before I get into that, let me just mention that this video is part of our effort to deliver high-quality training and learning materials for the Atlassian ecosystem in general, the apps, Jira, Confluence, and everything surrounding this. If you want to support this process, consider subscribing to the channel, liking the video, posting a comment for the algorithm. And also, please do remember that we do offer paid services in this area: training, implementation support, consulting, post-implementation maintenance, basically everything you can think of when it comes to project management in the Atlassian ecosystem. And also, we work with standard configuration and customization of Jira and Confluence. So whatever you're looking for, we probably have this. If you want to talk about your needs, please reach out to us using the email address over there or available in the description of this video. And with this, let's get into the topic of the things that BigPicture does not cover. Full disclaimer, this is of course not a complete list, because if I was to talk here about all of the things that BigPicture does not cover, I could be coming up with more and more and more. What I simply did is I took one of the spreadsheets that we got from the customer I've been talking to yesterday, and I picked the things that weren't covered by BigPicture according to their requirements. So that's what you're getting today. If you will be interested in a more sophisticated approach to what the tool is capable of, therefore what it cannot do, then consider buying one of our training. You have the video training available, which basically covers all the functionalities of BigPicture. It's a full sweep, full scope of everything that BigPicture has to offer. But of course, if you would prefer to have a live trainer to go with you through the functionalities, the person that you can ask questions, the person that can answer those questions, and also customize the training to your particular needs as an organization, then maybe the live training will be for you. But I'm digressing again, sorry for that. Let's get into the topic. So the first thing I wanted to mention over here is that BigPicture does not have customly calculated fields. What I mean by this is that if you want to have a certain KPI, for example, over here, a certain health indicator of the project, what else could be calculated? For example, a non-standard progress of your tasks, right? So things like these are not possible to be achieved with BigPicture itself. It does not have the fields where you can put the formula with a custom calculation algorithm and come up with a non-standard answer to the value of this field. But I really want to say that even though these fields are not available either here in the overview module, nor, for example, in the Gantt module or the scope module, where you get to display all of the fields coming from Jira, talking about Jira, you can calculate those values on the Jira level, right? So BigPicture is reusing Jira data. So if you have these calculations done by Jira itself, then a field that you will use for these kind of calculations can be shown over here. You simply go over here and all of the custom fields in your instance are available to you, and you can pick the one that holds the automatically calculated custom value, right? So it is kind of doable. It's just BigPicture doesn't do it, but it can be done on a Jira level. So there is a very good workaround for this. The second one I want to get to, and let's get back to the overview, is budgeting or cost analysis. So we actually have a separate video on the channel regarding budgeting in BigPicture, and there have been some features added to BigPicture in terms of calculating costs, budgets, and so on, but it's quite simplistic, so to say, right? So if you're looking for a more advanced cost management, if you're looking for some future predictions regarding your costs, if you're looking to see some kind of diagrams or charts regarding the costs, this is not what BigPicture has to offer. What you can do over here is basically define the values of expected budget for certain projects, track the costs on the level of issues, and aggregate them. So, for example, the actual cost coming from task would be in this column if I would have some values. The actual cost is here, but this is just a manually entered cost, the same way you can manually enter the expected costs, for example, the total budget for the project. But still, these values will mostly be here on the level of BigPicture only. So they do not exist on the level of Jira, which is a bummer. And these are just fields with values, right? So it's a text field. It can be more likely than not a numerical field. But there is not much that you can do with it afterwards except gazing at it and maybe comparing two values to one another visually over here. And of course, again, there are workarounds. I'm not going to get into all the possibilities that exist outside of BigPicture to cover these kind of requirements. But again, there are things that can be done about this outside of BigPicture, not inside BigPicture. And now, since I've been talking a bit about predictions for the future in terms of cost management, we could ask the similar question regarding the past. Are there any features in BigPicture that allow you to look at the past data and come up with some conclusions regarding that? And again, the answer is probably no, in terms of what people usually have in mind asking this question. So there isn't a place in BigPicture where you can go and, for example, take the look at the reports, and the reports will show you, oh, the performance of your people or certain individuals or teams in terms of, for example, the resource allocation is this and that, right? There is actually one report over here which I have very poor data for, but this one, the velocity for a team. So you can pick a team over here, and this chart will plot the performance of this team in terms of how much time in terms of user stories the team was able to consume, and there will also be a line over here depicting the velocity of the team. So that's what I mean by not having the data. I don't have this line because it's coming from those blue numbers and it's zero everywhere. So actually there is line somewhere at the bottom, but it's like with data it would be more visible. So this is the only thing in terms of the reports that will show you the past performance. But we also need to kind of remember that, of course, if I go to my resources, for example, I can look into the past and analyze the performance of my resources based on the past data from this kind of a view as well, right? So I could say, okay, I want to take a look at, let's aggregate it monthly, and I want to take a look at the data for the last half a year, and I am getting something, right? I am getting some numbers, and these numbers again can be exported, for example, to Excel, to CSV, so you can analyze it even further, crunch the numbers, but it's not very advanced, right? So it's more of manual work. And the same thing can be done from the Gantt view, for example. Of course, again, you can look into the past of the project. You can check how many things have been done and how many things, for example, were late. But there is, no place which tells you, hey, for the last half a year, 15 items from your project plan were late, which sums up together to, for example, 30 working days, right? So that would be an aggregated information that could have some value to a project manager and help him or her plan activities for the future and realize that maybe we are too optimistic with the estimates. The next thing that I want to touch upon are baselines. And this is a well-known problem when it comes to working with big picture. If baselines are important to you, let me switch back to the Gantt module, then you will probably be sad to hear that big picture has baselines, at least by name, and you can see that they are available over here. I can turn on the visibility of baselines, but it's actually a little bit of a lie over here because it says baselines like multiple baselines, but big picture can hold only one. And it's especially painful for some users switching from Microsoft Project because Microsoft Project allows you to have multiple baselines, and here you have only one baseline. So if I show the baselines, they will appear on my Gantt as lines underneath my issues, if like this one, for example, right? But if I create a new baseline, it will overwrite the previous one. So that's what I mean by saying that you only can have one. And there aren't really good ways around that. There aren't really any good ways around that because what baseline takes as a snapshot is the start and end date of every issue that you have in your work breakdown structure over here and stores it in Jira. So essentially, to have a baseline, you need to have start and end date as standard fields and then baseline start and end dates as a duplicate of those fields. And now imagine if you want to have 10 baselines, you need to have 20 additional fields or 18 additional fields that will be able to store these values. So I kind of understand why we have only one baseline over here, but I still think that there could be solutions implemented, for example, on the level of big picture only, so that baselines, so for example, you have only one baseline in Jira, and the rest of the baselines are stored by big picture. They do not consume space on your Jira tickets. You don't have to create those 18 custom fields. Big picture will take care of it for you and store those values in its own database. So I think it's doable, but it's not available. So this is something definitely worth thinking of. And the last thing I've got for you today is actually a bit connected to baselines. Doesn't have to, but could be. So again, imagine that you have a baseline, and baseline is kind of like a snapshot of the project. Not a full snapshot because, as I mentioned, it copies only the start and end dates of everything that you have in your project plan. You could be hoping to have more data captured by the baseline snapshot. For example, some cost information, right? We've been talking about cost management. For example, people assigned to issues and stuff like that. But what I'm getting at is that there is no feature in big picture that allows you to bring back some snapshot from the past, like a saved version of the project plan. So it's not possible to create, let's say you're doing the kickoff, the project plan is set, you're taking a snapshot of this project, and then you're working, and then some changes need to be made. And maybe you want to, after making those changes, you want to save this version because who knows, maybe some new decisions will come and there is some uncertainty about that, so that you can bring back the previous version, right? It's not possible to bring back the previous version except for a very daunting manual work because essentially, if you have all the data on the Jira level, Jira has the history of every ticket, so you can look at the history, see what was the state of this ticket some time ago and revert manually all the changes. But let's be realistic. You would do it maybe for 100 issues, but if you have thousands of issues in your projects, nobody will do that. So that's why I mean that there is no way to go back to the previously saved versions using big picture. And as I've been saying earlier, it's of course not a complete list because you can always come up with some things that that the tool doesn't do. And this is a list that could be infinite, endless. Therefore, I'm leaving you with those 5 again, I do encourage you to reach out to us if you are looking for a tool. Actually, if you've stumbled upon this video, you're probably considering Big Picture already, and you've seen it, and it sparked your interest, and now you're trying to figure out whether the tool is good for you. We can help you do that. So reach out to us and let's talk. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you in one of the next videos.